Well, would you looky there? Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Cheers to the people, the college football fans here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel. I am Matt Barry. It was a late night last night. We got Colorado for the first time this year in the college football studio, leading into college football final. Again, the Buffs come back, keeping us there till late to get the show done. Great finish by them, but we reached the midway point of the season. Fatigue starts to rear its ugly head. Sleep begins to become little by little less throughout the year, but we are trudging on here on Sunday Blonday Sunday. Wouldn't have it any other way. After a week 7, by the way, when we went into the season, we ID'd this weekend on the calendar, and we said that if you have a friend that gets married yesterday, October 12th, they're no longer your friend because it was a weekend that we looked at and said that's the best weekend of the year so far. So cheers to you that didn't go to any friends or family weddings because the weekend lived up to the hype. And I think at the midway point of the season, it's important to assess where we are heading into the back half of the schedule because now it's going to get really, really good. It's going to get really, really competitive. And there's going to be so many games each week that dictate where we go for the rest of the season. First of all, as I always do, because it's my show and I can, I want to cheers my Arizona State Sun Devils for getting the win against Utah on Friday night. What a big win for the young Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State team beating Utah. They kept fighting. They stayed in it. And it's finally nice to see Arizona State competitive again. It makes football season so much fun for me because you know what that's like as a fan of your alma mater, or when you're watching ball just in general, the team that you like, if they struggle and they suck and it's not fun to watch. But when your team's competitive, I don't even care if they lose a lot of the time. You know, like you want your team to win, but if you're competitive and you make watching the game entertaining week in and week out, makes the sport so much better. So cheers to Kenny Dillingham and my Arizona State Sun Devils. Oh, wait, there we go. Arizona State Sun Devils for getting that win Friday against Utah as my laptop makes a bunch of Sunday morning noises. I don't know why. Who's trying to get a hold of me on a Sunday morning? Like I'm here on like 4 hours of sleep and they're emailing me about stuff for next week. You ever figure that out? Like those people that bother you on Sunday mornings where they should just be with their family and fantasy football. Okay, I digress. Week 7. Here we go. Couple of things I want to point out. One, the new playoff format, said it a week ago. I'll say it again today, and that's where I want to start with Oregon and Ohio State. What a game it was. I don't like how it finished. I don't know why Will Howard didn't understand the clock management and what he was doing. Didn't get a playoff. He ran and then slid, thinking they could bang a timeout. Wasn't going to work. Credit Dan Lanning, who again in those big games makes some calls that make you say, huh? But he does them anyway. And they got away with it. Yesterday beating Ohio State 32-31. Here's how I see this. Part one, cheers, the Ducks, your biggest game in your new Big Ten conference. You get the win. But I look at Ohio State's schedule. In the new 12-team playoff, we talked about it last week on Sunday Bloody Sunday, not going to knock you out of the playoff race. And it's the same thing for Ohio State. They have Nebraska, could be a tough game. They go into a bye week, though, so I'm imagining they're coming out of the bye week pretty pissed off. At Penn State, those will be whiteout conditions. And then Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana right now, tough game because they haven't lost, and then Michigan. So it's the time of year, and it's kind of a catch-22 because we wanted the playoff, and it's going to make it better come postseason. I just don't know that it's going to hurt anyone with an early season loss. And that's the case for Ohio State. They looked for a lot of the time like the better team. Their defense leaves a lot to be desired. And Dylan Gabriel and Oregon showed up to the team that they thought they were going to be. I mean, they led all categories. Dylan Gabriel, 341 yards. Jordan James, 115 yards and a touchdown. Evan Stewart, 7 catches, 149 yards and a touchdown. That's a really good team. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the first of 2, possibly 3 times they meet because of a Big Ten championship game, potentially. And then however the playoff format shakes out, they could see each other in the college football playoff as well. But Oregon right now, I would, and whatever, it's a ranking, so it really doesn't matter to the playoff rankings. I would rank Oregon 1 over Texas, who dominated Oklahoma yesterday 34-3. Oklahoma, they have issues at quarterback. They were without some of their big-time receivers. It's not taking away anything that Texas did. It was 34-3. They beat the hell out of them and looked like the better team. But just based on what Oregon did against number two in terms of the biggest game, just move Oregon up to number one, Texas to number two, because Texas has Georgia next week, so it's all going to work itself out. But when you look at the enormity of some of these matchups yesterday, Texas, to me, end of the first half, won the first half of the season. As we embark on the halfway point, Oklahoma was kind of their flag in the ground saying we're the best team in the country, at least for now, or we had the best first half of the season. I would say their product is more complete. But based on yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if the voters flip-flopped Oregon up to one and put Texas to two, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas remained number one. Cheers to Sark and the Longhorns getting the rivalry win against Oklahoma, who has some issues at quarterback, was a big win for them. So Texas gets into the midway point 6-0. Oregon gets to the halfway point 6-0. Penn State, they go on the road to USC in a hard-fought game. Cheers to James Franklin and the Nittany Lions in another game that should be a Rose Bowl, but it's not. It's a Big Ten game. They get the win in overtime. And that final drive to force the overtime when Drew Aller hit Singleton to make it 30-30, USC missed the field goal in overtime. Penn State gets their opportunity and gets the win. That's a championship drive. A drive like that, when you need it, is a championship drive. And I think Penn State's different this year. They're a little bit more explosive. Tyler Warren, in my opinion, is the best all-around player in college football, not named Travis Hunter, who got hurt last night. We'll know more about him later. But Penn State, I'm telling you, like that was a game you could go. I could see them easily going into the Coliseum and losing. But cheers to the Nittany Lions and Nittany Lion fans, because it's setting up now. Look at the Big Ten. As we sit here this morning on Sunday Bloody Sunday, they've got the 2, 3, 4 ranked teams of the country: Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Got to flip flop a little bit because of yesterday's action, but it was a great win by Penn State. I cannot wait for the back half of the season to see where Penn State is. So that one was big. Georgia gets by Mississippi State in a very Georgia-like fashion. And Alabama. Let's talk Alabama again, which we talk about extensively on the Matt Berry Show presented by Allstate. Paul Feinbaum, we check in with him. Alabama skated by again. And if you want to look at a team who is flirting with unnecessary disaster in a season, it's Alabama. They got by South Carolina. That thing was 14-0 quick. Give the Gamecocks credit. Little by little works their way back into it. But that was close to Alabama-geddon out there in Tuscaloosa. They got the win 27-25. My goodness. I mean, I'm going to give you a cheers, because if you're an Alabama fan, you're probably hungover this morning anyway. Man, Kalen DeBoer, they still have some work to do. I guess a win is a win is a win, if you want to be football cliche. But I can't imagine coming out of the Georgia win, if you'd have told Alabama fans you'd lose to Vanderbilt and you would need a last-second interception to stop a potential game-winning field goal for South Carolina, they'd have bought it. So that was an interesting game. And then LSU and Brian Kelly, cheers to the Cajuns. I bet that place was rocking last night. In fact, it was rocking. In overtime, it was like a 4+ hour game. Absolutely insane. And all they did, Garrett Nussmeier, he kind of just hung in there. And he waited and he waited. LSU's defense was bending. They weren't breaking. And now you got to talk about LSU. 2-0 in the SEC, 5-1 overall. They've kind of held back a little bit. We haven't been talking about them a lot because the schedule didn't dictate it. They haven't done much since the opening weekend loss to USC. But here's LSU. They're in the mix. And Ole Miss, I don't know if they 1-2 in conference. I don't know if they've got the schedule to get back in this. That could have been the first playoff elimination game we've had this year. So on a weekend where we had all of these huge matchups that could dictate where we go, we're starting to see some things shake out. So if I had to give my midway season point, my halfway, see, it's Sunday morning, I can't even talk. Halfway point superlative cheers. First one, Texas. You win the first half of the season. Congratulations. Can you get it done against Georgia and then move your way closer to a spot in the SEC championship? If I had to give my first half of the season, Heisman Trophy, Ashton Jeanty, Boise State, not even close. What a season he's had again, racked up over 200 all-purpose yards against Hawaii in a win yesterday. I'd give my midway season Heisman to Ashton Jeanty. And as we get down to the final stretch of the college football season, if I had to give my coaching award in the first half of the season, give me Dan Lanning. He's got the biggest win so far. He's kept Oregon close in a couple of weeks where they didn't look that way. But Dan Lanning and the Ducks to this point have the best win this season. The coach is fiery, he's entertaining, and we are in store for so much more the rest of the way. So cheers to the college football fans. I love you. If you're at the halfway point, hydrate, drink some vitamins, get some rest, because we are going low the rest of the way, and we'll talk about all of it. Whether we're sleep deprived, got bedhead, a cold, whatever, we'll be here for you on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel. Hey, enjoy. Cheers. Another Sunday Bloody Sundays in the books.